Hello everyone, welcome to Fulltechstack. This is part 2 of Angular interview questions and answer series. In this video, we will be discussing next 5 important interview questions and answers. I highly recommend you watching part 1 before watching this. What are different types of Angular lifecycle hooks? We know that a component goes through a number of phases from the time of its birth till its death. Angular allows us to hook into these different phases and run our code there, which ultimately allows us to gain fine-grained control of our Angular application. These hooks are categorized as hooks for the component or directives, and another one is hooks for the component's children. Let's also look at the order of execution of these hooks. First comes the constructor, which gets called when we create a component or a directive using new keyword. And then ng on changes gets called. It can be called multiple times as well, as whenever there is a change in any of the input properties of our component, ng on changes is triggered. Next one is ng on init. Now this is one of the most frequently used hook, which only gets called once after the first ng on changes and when the component has been initialized. Then comes ng do check, which is also called as developer's custom change detector, and it is invoked when the change detector of the component or directive is invoked. Next, ng after content init, that is invoked after the Angular performs content projection, which means inserting the content that we want inside another component. Then we have ng after content checked. That is invoked each time Angular application is done checking the content of the component using the change detection mechanism. ng after view init. Once the component's view is fully initialized, then ng after view init is triggered. And once the view is checked by the change detector, then ng after view checked is invoked. And the last hook of a component is ng destroy, which gets invoked just before the Angular destroys the component. We usually use this hook for detaching event handlers or unsubscribing the observables so as to avoid any kind of memory leak in our Angular application. What are modules in Angular? You must remember in previous part we studied that in Angular, components are the basic building blocks that binds the view and the model. Now, if we are working on a large application, we surely be having lots of views and their associated models, which means we will be having multiple components, and in order to maintain and manage these components, we should group components logically, and that is exactly a module in Angular. In simple words, a logical group of components is a module, or module logically groups components. What is Typescript? TypeScript is an open source language which is built on JavaScript. So you can also say that TypeScript is a superset of JavaScript. Eventually, all the code that we write in TypeScript gets converted to JavaScript. We can also say TS is an advanced form of JS that adds type to the JavaScript. Like here, we have this JavaScript file in here. I'm taking a variable, assigning a value 0 to it. Now I'm doing increment, which is absolutely correct, but now I'm assigning this variable a string, which is incorrect absolutely, but you see we are not getting any kind of error. Now let's try doing the same in TS. Here, whoa, we got a compile time error saying it is not assignable to type number. Now we can conclude that TypeScript comes with a plus point, as being strongly typed, TypeScript is less prone to errors, and since we can do object-oriented programming along with the JavaScript, our code quality and productivity also increases. What is a decorator in Angular? You can say decorator is a function or a feature provided by TypeScript language that tells Angular the intent of the class. Here you see we have a class, and without a decorator for Angular it is a normal class. But if I'll add component decorator to it, then Angular will start considering this normal class as a component. Also remember that we also can denote Angular decorators as Angular annotations and Angular metadata. Now, what is a template in Angular? A template in Angular is nothing but a form of HTML that tells Angular how to render the component. And for a component, we can define a template in two ways. By adding template inside the component decorator, we can write our template code here. Or we can simply provide the template URL inside the decorator of a separate physical template file like this. Thank you so much for watching. I hope these questions are helping you out in your revision. Please feel free to reach out for any kind of feedback in our comment section. Thank you.